WW2, 1932. In the quiet streets of Harbin, Manchuria, life seemed ordinary. Streetcars clattering, vendors calling out, children laughing. But just beyond the city's edge, hidden behind high fences and secrecy, a nightmare was unfolding that the world would barely glimpse for decades. The place where humans were treated not as people, but as living experiments. A place where disease, starvation, and chemical torture were measured with cold precision. Welcome to Unit 731, Japan's most terrifying secret laboratory, where the limits of cruelty were tested on both humans and animals. What happened behind those walls is so horrifying, so calculated, that even the most seasoned historians struggle to comprehend it. Today, we will reveal the chilling truths that were buried, the stories of lives lost, the screams that echoed in empty corridors, and the science that became a weapon of war. Stay with us, because what you are about to hear is not just history. It is a confrontation with the darkest corners of human ambition. WW2, 1932. The city of Harbin in Manchuria was waking to the sound of streetcars clattering over cobblestones and the chatter of vendors setting up their stalls. Yet beneath the ordinary rhythm of morning life, a shadow loomed, heavy and silent. Hidden from most eyes, in the outskirts of the city, lay a facility known only to a few as Unit 731. Officially, it was a research laboratory under the guise of public health studies. A place where doctors in white coats supposedly fought disease. In truth, it was Japan's secret weapon factory, designed to explore the boundaries of life, death, and human suffering. Dr. Shiro Ishii, a man both brilliant and horrifying, oversaw the operation. He moved through the hallways with a measured calm, clipboard in hand, eyes scanning cages, charts, and notes. Here, humans and animals alike were subjects of experiments that tested diseases, toxins, and the very limits of survival. No law or moral code could touch them here. They were entirely beyond the world's scrutiny. Every morning, new animals arrived: rabbits, monkeys, dogs, pigs, even birds, each destined to become a living measurement of pain and biological response. From the very first steps inside the compound, one could feel the cold precision that ran through Unit 731. The corridors were stark, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, tiles wiped clean to remove any trace of the suffering that seemed to linger in the air. Guards patrolled silently, eyes sharp, movements deliberate, ensuring that order was maintained and that no one escaped the ever-watchful oversight. The animals, from rabbits to monkeys, were housed in metal cages so bare that the floor and walls seemed to amplify the terror they felt. Rabbits would be exposed to plague, cholera, and other pathogens, their small bodies trembling uncontrollably as bacteria coursed through veins unprepared for the onslaught. Monkeys, closer to humans in anatomy and physiology, experienced fevers, infections, and injuries designed to mimic battlefield wounds. Their agonized expressions a mirror of what a human body might endure. The air often carried a mix of antiseptic, blood, and fear, an invisible haze that clung to both living subjects and the researchers observing them. Each trial was meticulously documented. Every reaction was recorded, from slight twitching to the most violent convulsions. Every suffering quantified with an eerie clinical detachment. Data sheets lined the walls of observation rooms, filled with notes on temperature fluctuations, immune responses, and behavioral changes. Scientists would cross-reference reactions from rabbits with those of monkeys, drawing conclusions about potential human responses. Even minor anomalies were noted with precision, often prompting further trials to isolate variables and ensure consistency. The goal was unmistakable: to understand how disease and trauma could be weaponized with exacting efficiency. In one room, a rabbit might squeal as a lethal dose of cholera spread through its small frame, while across the hall, a monkey writhed under the gaze of a surgeon performing experimental procedures without anesthesia. The cries, the thrashing, and the fevers were all part of a carefully measured process, turning the suffering of life into a map of human vulnerability. Beyond the individual trials, the compound itself seemed designed to reinforce the chilling purpose of the experiments. Long corridors, connected isolation chambers, animal quarters, and observation rooms, creating a labyrinth where every step, every sound was under surveillance. The layout allowed scientists to monitor multiple experiments simultaneously while maintaining strict secrecy. Instruments and surgical tables were arranged with meticulous order, a reflection of Dr. Ishii's obsession with precision. Guards and assistants moved with rehearsed efficiency, their footsteps echoing in empty halls, the only acknowledgement of life beyond the cages. Even the air seemed manipulated, conditioned to minimize odors and sounds that might indicate compassion or human weakness. It was a place where the architecture, the sounds, and the routines were all instruments of control, turning both humans and animals into mere components of an unfeeling machine. Unit 731 represented a unique and horrifying convergence of science and cruelty. Rabbits twitched under the strain of infections, monkeys displayed panic and confusion, and dogs endured amputations, infected wounds, and chemical exposures. Birds and pigs were used to study disease transmission, each experiment contributing to a growing body of knowledge intended for military application. Observers meticulously compared results, noting every anomaly, every reaction, compiling data that would eventually be transformed into a blueprint for biological warfare. Within the walls of this compound, morality had been replaced by methodology, empathy traded for observation, and the line between research and atrocity vanished entirely. It was here, in the silent corridors, under the gaze of Dr. Ishii, that the pursuit of knowledge and the pursuit of death became indistinguishably intertwined. By the mid-1930s, Unit 731 had grown into a sprawling network of laboratories and facilities, each carefully designed to advance the ambitions of Japan's top biological warfare program. Laboratories expanded with new buildings, observation rooms, and isolation chambers, while the number of prisoners brought to the facility increased steadily. Chinese civilians, prisoners of war, and even convicted criminals were forced into the experiments, their lives treated as data points in a chilling pursuit of scientific knowledge. Freezing chambers, high-pressure rooms, and starvation protocols became routine tests, with animals often serving as initial subjects, their suffering a grim rehearsal for the human trials to come. Dr. Shiro Ishii oversaw the operations with meticulous precision, believing that data-driven experimentation would grant Japan an unbeatable edge in warfare. Each day, the screams of animals and humans alike echoed through the hallways, a constant reminder that this was no ordinary laboratory, but a theater of cruelty, measured and controlled. The range of experiments at Unit 731 was both vast and horrifying. Pathogens like plague, anthrax, cholera, and typhoid were tested systematically on living creatures. Rabbits were infected with deadly bacteria, their small bodies monitored meticulously for fever, weakness, and immune response. Monkeys, closely related to humans physiologically, endured surgical procedures without anesthesia to study organ failure, infection progression, and recovery. Dogs were subjected to limb amputations and subsequent infections, their conditions observed to track the progression of gangrene. Pigs and birds were also used to study disease transmission, incubation periods, and the spread of pathogens under varying environmental conditions. These trials were not hypothetical. They were designed to create biological weapons capable of devastating cities, contaminating water and food supplies, and killing indiscriminately. Every living subject, whether animal or human, became part of an exacting experimental system aimed at maximizing lethality. The facility's layout emphasized efficiency, control, and secrecy. Long corridors connected laboratories, animal wards, and observation decks, creating a maze in which every movement was monitored. Researchers and guards moved with practiced precision, their eyes constantly scanning for deviations, their routines honed to ensure smooth operations. Instruments, surgical tables, and observation equipment were meticulously arranged, reflecting Ishii's obsession with order. The air itself carried a mixture of antiseptic, iron, and fear, seeping into every corner of the complex, reminding everyone inside that this was a place where life was measured, manipulated, and ultimately expendable. The combination of architecture, scent, and sound created a psychological pressure that reinforced the brutality of every experiment conducted within these walls. Each test at Unit 731 was executed with methodical repetition, allowing researchers to record precise reactions over time. Animals endured successive trials, exposure to pathogens, surgical manipulation, and extreme environmental conditions. Rabbits provided baseline data, while monkeys allowed for more sophisticated observations of immune and neurological responses. Dogs, pigs, and birds contributed crucial information on disease progression and transmission vectors. Observers would meticulously compare results across species, recording every anomaly and reaction with a precision that dehumanized both the subjects and the scientists themselves. The ultimate goal was the creation of biological agents so reliable and lethal that they could be deployed as weapons of war. In this environment, research and atrocity merged seamlessly, producing knowledge whose application was as devastating as it was immoral. The psychological weight of Unit 731 was relentless. Prisoners lived in constant fear, witnessing the suffering of animals and humans alike. Guards and researchers cultivated a sense of detachment, treating screams and convulsions as routine data. Rabbits' frantic movements, monkeys' panicked expressions, and dogs' whimpers became part of the everyday soundscape, internalized as background noise in the pursuit of military advantage. The laboratory's strict routines and controlled environment reinforced the notion that life, whether human or animal, was a tool to be measured and manipulated. In this calculated environment, Unit 731 exemplified the chilling potential of science divorced from ethics, where knowledge was pursued through suffering and cruelty, where the line between discovery and horror was irrevocably erased. Observers of Unit 731 often remarked on the startling detachment of its scientists. They moved through the compound with a calm, almost clinical efficiency, their eyes scanning charts, cages, and equipment, as though witnessing human agony had become routine. In neat ledgers, they meticulously recorded reactions, fevers, convulsions, and deaths, their handwriting precise, detached, and devoid of emotion. Yet beneath this veneer of order and precision, the human cost was immense and incomprehensible. Prisoners were not mere subjects. They were living, breathing beings whose pain and suffering formed the very foundation of the experiments. Women, children, and the elderly were brought into the compound to test the extremes of human endurance under starvation, dehydration, hypothermia, and exposure to toxic chemicals. In these rooms, the line between science and monstrosity vanished entirely, replaced by an obsessive drive for control over life and death, where morality had no place, and suffering was measured like a variable in an equation. By 1940, as the Second World War escalated across the Pacific and East Asia, the output of Unit 731 became increasingly strategic and deliberate. Detailed reports were compiled and sent to Japanese military commanders, describing how pathogens could decimate entire cities, how timing and method of outbreaks could be manipulated for maximum effect, and how data from both humans and animals could guide battlefield strategies. The Japanese army eagerly sought any tactical advantage, and Unit 731 delivered it with chilling effectiveness, its methods blurring the boundaries of morality and military necessity. Experiments on animals were used to refine protocols and minimize unknown variables before human trials, giving the military confidence in the lethality of their biological arsenal. Rabbits, monkeys, dogs, pigs, and birds were all part of a carefully orchestrated system, each contributing information about infection rates, mortality, and disease transmission that could later be weaponized. Each test, each deliberate infection, each meticulously recorded death was a step toward constructing biological weapons of unparalleled terror. The compound operated like a machine, every detail calculated to extract maximum data. Monkeys' reactions to organ failure, rabbits' fevers and weakness, dogs' progression of gangrene, all were logged, cross-referenced, and analyzed. The scientists' obsession with measurement, order, and predictability transformed what might have been medical research into a systematic process of dehumanization. In this way, Unit 731 became not only a laboratory, but also a strategic arm of the military, where life itself was manipulated, weaponized, and ultimately discarded. Within its walls, the intersection of knowledge, cruelty, and ambition created a blueprint for a kind of warfare that would haunt history, demonstrating the terrifying consequences when scientific curiosity is divorced entirely from ethics. Despite the strict secrecy surrounding Unit 731, whispers of its horrific activities began to filter into the outside world. Survivors of Japanese occupation in Manchuria recounted chilling tales of bizarre experiments, sudden disappearances, and mysterious, often fatal illnesses that seemed to strike without warning. Families searched desperately for loved ones taken by the army, often finding nothing but silence and uncertainty. Yet within the walls of the compound, scientists continued their work with relentless precision, seemingly oblivious to the outside world. Animals played a critical role in this process, allowing researchers to model disease progression, test experimental vaccines, and refine lethal biological agents without immediate human casualties. While this might have appeared to introduce a form of scientific discipline, it did nothing to lessen the horror. Instead, it expanded the scale of suffering while cloaking it in the appearance of methodical, data-driven research. As 1945 approached and the tide of war turned decisively against Japan, Unit 731 faced a new and urgent challenge: concealment and cover-up. Every trace of the facility's macabre operations, including detailed notebooks containing data on human and animal subjects, instruments used in experimental procedures, and the infrastructure that had facilitated such atrocities had to be hidden from advancing Allied forces. Many prisoners were executed in an effort to prevent them from revealing the truth, while scientists moved with frantic determination to destroy records and erase evidence. Yet, despite these efforts, some documents survived, cleverly hidden in remote locations or smuggled out by sympathetic personnel, providing future historians with a rare window into the operations of one of the most terrifying laboratories of the Second World War. These surviving materials offer a glimpse into the scale, scope, and methodology of Unit 731, showing a place where human and animal suffering was systematically exploited in the pursuit of military advantage. The records reveal carefully designed experiments, detailed observations, and methodical measurements intended to maximize the effectiveness of biological weapons. The moral vacuum within which these actions occurred is made starkly evident in the data, where each infection, each trial, and each death was cataloged with cold precision. The stories of those who survived the occupation and the fragments of documentation left behind remind us that Unit 731 was not merely a laboratory. It was a theater of cruelty and control, a grim testament to the consequences of science divorced from ethics. In this hidden world, the manipulation of life became both a tool and a weapon, leaving a legacy of horror that continues to inform our understanding of war, science, and morality to this day. The legacy of Unit 731 is both haunting and deeply instructive, a stark reminder of the extremes to which science can be distorted when completely divorced from ethics. The laboratory embodies a dark chapter in human history, where the pursuit of knowledge and progress became inextricably linked with cruelty and death. Animals were used systematically as proxies in these experiments, their suffering a grim prelude and rehearsal for the horrors inflicted upon human prisoners. Rabbits, monkeys, dogs, pigs, and birds were subjected to diseases, chemical exposure, and surgical procedures without anesthesia. Each trial meticulously documented, each reaction scrutinized, and each death recorded with cold precision. Through careful observation, relentless recording, and repetitive experimentation, the scientists at Unit 731 transformed scientific curiosity into a mechanism of terror, turning biology into a weapon and empathy into an obsolete concept. The moral lessons of this dark period are clear and unflinching. Unchecked ambition, the militarization of research, and the systematic dehumanization of others can produce results that shock the conscience, leaving scars on humanity that endure decades after the events themselves. Understanding this history is far more than an academic exercise. It is a warning etched into the lives of those who suffered and into the very shadows of a laboratory built for destruction. Unit 731 also highlights the complex interplay between secrecy, power, and war, illustrating how scientific knowledge can be exploited when moral constraints are abandoned. At a time when the Japanese Empire sought dominance across East Asia, the laboratory functioned as both a strategic military asset and a chilling symbol of technological hubris. Data derived from animal and human subjects directly influenced military strategy, demonstrating the extraordinary and terrifying potential when science is weaponized without accountability. The facility's operations were meticulously concealed, and for decades, much of the outside world remained unaware of the full extent of the atrocities committed within its walls. Only after the end of the war did survivor testimonies, historical documents, and declassified records begin to reveal the scale and scope of the horrors carried out in Harbin. These sources allow modern audiences to comprehend the calculated precision of experiments, the the meticulous observation of disease progression, and the deliberate manipulation of life as a tool for both research and terror. The psychological, ethical, and societal implications of Unit 731 continue to resonate today. Scientists inside the compound operated with clinical detachment, cataloging pain and death as if they were neutral data, demonstrating the dangers inherent when research is pursued without humanistic oversight. The experiments on animals, while intended as preliminary studies, provided crucial insights into the biological mechanisms that would later be applied to human subjects, amplifying the scale of suffering and revealing the extent to which human curiosity can be corrupted by ambition and ideology. The meticulous records, survival testimonies, and reconstructed accounts serve as an enduring reminder that the pursuit of scientific knowledge is inseparable from ethical responsibility. They force us to confront the consequences of prioritizing results over humanity, and to examine the conditions under which intelligence can be weaponized against the vulnerable. Today, the story of Unit 731 functions as a potent lesson in vigilance and moral accountability. It demonstrates the destructive potential of a society that allows military and scientific ambition to override ethical norms, and it underscores the importance of strict oversight in research involving living beings. The suffering of animals, the systematic abuse of human subjects, and the calculated detachment of researchers collectively remind the world of the thin line separating inquiry from atrocity. As historians continue to study the remnants of Unit 731, the world is forced to recognize the enduring impact of these crimes, ensuring that the experiences of those who suffered are not forgotten, and that such atrocities are never repeated. In this sense, the legacy of Unit 731 is not only a record of horror, but also a guidepost, urging contemporary society to reconcile scientific advancement with moral responsibility, and to understand that knowledge divorced from compassion can become one of the most dangerous weapons imaginable. The scale and scope of these experiments ensured that the suffering endured at Unit 731 would not only leave a mark on history, but would also become a subject of study for generations to come. Each meticulously recorded trial, each observation of animal and human response contributes to our understanding of the catastrophic consequences that occur when ethical boundaries are ignored. Survivors' testimonies, along with declassified records and research documents, allow historians and scientists to reconstruct the operations of the laboratory, ensuring that the horrors inflicted are neither forgotten nor misunderstood. In this way, the experiences of those who suffered continue to serve as a solemn reminder of the human cost of unrestrained scientific ambition. Finally, Unit 731 stands as a stark testament to the necessity of ethical oversight in all forms of scientific research. The systematic suffering of animals, the deliberate cruelty inflicted upon human beings, and the cold, clinical efficiency of the experiments all combine to form a cautionary tale for future generations. The global response to these revelations has shaped modern standards for human and animal research, strengthening the role of ethical review boards, international oversight, and stringent laws against the development and use of biological weapons. The story of Unit 731, while deeply disturbing, continues to teach crucial lessons about vigilance, moral responsibility, and the social and ethical obligations of scientists working with living subjects. By remembering the dark legacy of Unit 731, contemporary society acknowledges the victims and ensures that the pursuit of knowledge is guided not by cruelty or ambition alone, but by compassion and ethical consideration. This history challenges us to confront uncomfortable truths about human behavior, the potential for institutionalized abuse, and the ways in which curiosity, if unchecked, can be transformed into a tool of oppression. The laboratory's shadow serves as a constant reminder that scientific progress must be balanced with humanity, and that ethical responsibility is inseparable from the pursuit of discovery. In honoring the memory of those who suffered, we not only preserve the lessons of the past, but also fortify the moral compass that governs the future of science, ensuring that curiosity and ambition are always tempered by respect for life and human dignity.